Hey everyone, this is Tony Coffin back with the World Class Mentors, and boy, do we have a treat for you today. Not only is Jay Fiset one of the most amazing people in the world, you'll get to know him. His energy is exciting. His laughter is, oh my, it just makes you smile all day when you hear him. But Jay Fiset is my mentor, and so I wanted to share him with the world today on the World Class Mentors. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Tony, thanks so much for having me. How are you?
That was the easy part, I tell you. Now, I thought I'd bring you in before I read your intro because I know you're a best-selling author, and I've got your book right in front of me, Reframe the Blame, which I love. You're a student of human nature, and you are my type of avid outdoorsman. I mean, if there's a five-star hotel, I'm there with you. Now, the next line is my favorite because it's so true. It says, you speak fluent smartass. So,
I do.
I can see it says you can see it reflect your life mission in 5 minutes flat. You love your two sons, and I think I do too. I think I'm ready to adopt them as a new grandma if you'll let me. And because you're like me, we play with their toys. But the best part of Christmas was playing with all the toys before they got them, right?
Yes.
And I know you're dedicated to instigating a global movement of conscious creators and supporting people to organize their life. And I'm one of those. And you know what? I was so proud to select you and so pleased that with what I've been learning over the past couple of years with you. Can you tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in all of this craziness?
Oh, well, how I got started, I finished high school and I've been an entrepreneur since, birth, I think, if, in terms of buying my first bicycles and motorcycles and cars from, little business ventures as a kid. But at the end of school, I decided I was going to go and become a lawyer because I like to argue and debate and chat. And I was just horrified by my first year of pre-law. So I went to work back in the entrepreneurial field. I had a business partner who was very good at what he did, but was a grumpy son of a gun. And this amazing thing transpired, which was he came into the office one day and said, I'm going to take 5 days off. I'm going to go on holiday. I'll see you next week. I don't think too much about it. But he comes back the next Monday morning and is quite literally floating on air, like 3 inches off the ground, and full of smiles, giggling, making jokes. And this is not the guy I know. And I'm a pretty young man at the time. I was probably 19. Maybe just turned 20, and I was trying to figure out, like, what on earth happened to Andy, and all I could possibly think, Tony, you'll get a kick out of this, is like, so he went on holidays for 5 days, he's happy, he must have got laid, it will wear off by noon. Now, the truth is it didn't wear off at noon, it didn't wear off that entire week, and at the end of that week, we were actually having a drink in a little bar called Smiles, think Cheers but above ground. And I said this to him. It's like, so what on earth happened to you? It's like aliens took over your body. What on earth occurred? Like, what is happening? I don't get this. And he said to me, I took a sip of his beer and he looked at me and said, I took a course. It was very powerful. Take it. And I was a little bit boggled by that because what I had heard him say, it's not what he said, but I heard him say, I took a sales course. We'll make more money, go take it. Because what had happened in those 5 days, Monday through Friday, is we had sold more than we'd ever sold in a week. We had more fun than we ever had before. And we were just enjoying ourselves. So I went and I signed up for this course, which I thought was a sales course, which turned out to be this intense personal development program. And that personal development program truly changed and altered how I saw myself, my role in the world, what my contribution was going to be. And ultimately, I went to work for that organization. I bought that organization, and after working there for a couple of years, and I've been doing the same work fundamentally we're coming on 30 plus years. So that was the beginning of how I got introduced to it. I thought I was taking a sales course, but it was really a personal development course.
And you've been doing, the personal best. You've been doing in creators codes. I mean, you've just risen through the ranks to really shine, Jay. And that I think that's your honesty, your integrity. I mean, it's just, you are, what you see is what you get with Jay Fiset,
It can't be any other way for me.
Love it. You've introduced something to the world that is not new, but your style of doing it is new and it works. It's called Mastermind to Millions. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And yes, certainly I did not create it by any stretch of the imagination, but in the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, I have become recognized as really the number one trainer, teacher, and educator for coaches and experts, authors, and consultants who want to position, launch, and lead their own masterminds. And really how that transpired, Tony, was we were running these personal transformation courses for years, and I love transformation. I love those, breakthroughs and those moments that happen in a classroom, where it's like the sky opens up and, sun shines on somebody because it's like, oh, I understand what's going on. Oh, I get what's happening. I mean, those are beautiful moments. But what was clear for me is that people would go back to their lives, the lives that they designed, prior to this, transformational breakthrough, and the gravity of the life that they designed would pull them back so that they couldn't actually live into that transformation. They couldn't actually make the change that they had tasted. And that's a little bit heartbreaking because, it's one thing to taste a transformation and then to go back to your life and have things be the same, except hurt more because you have a sense of what it could be. That's just not cool in my humble estimation. So we started running these mastermind groups to provide people the space, the support, the community to actually have the time to live into those transformations and to make them real in their lives, make them real in their businesses, make them real with their kids, make them real with their spouses. And we did that for literally 25 years as a support mechanic to our transformational programs. And then a crazy thing happened, which was kind of fascinating. I was at a mastermind, a friend of mine, Christian Michelson, in San Diego, and somebody was talking about, I'm trying to launch a mastermind, and I'm trying to get this thing done, and having some trouble. And it's like, well, hey, I've got a whole bunch of resources. I've trained all of my coaches, I've trained all of my facilitators, I've trained my entire team to deliver masterminds. You can just have these resources. And literally from a standing start, 14 months later, we had a $2.6 million business serving and supporting people to position, launch, and lead masterminds. And I just truly, genuinely love that work. And even our name, Mastermind to Millions, is a double entendre of we want people to be significantly well rewarded for their contribution to the planet. But perhaps even more important to me is that my vision is that we are going to quite literally have millions of people in mastermind groups giving and receiving the support that they require to share their gift with the world, to create the lives that they want, to make the difference in a way that is meaningful and sustainable. So that's the snapshot for Mastermind to Millions. And, I just truly, genuinely love that work.
I can totally tell, Jay. I mean, it just comes out, and the electricity in your voice just it makes everybody happy because you know what you're doing, and you've taken care of so many folks just like me. But you've also gone one step further. Is not only have you developed an incredible artillery or arsenal of tools and resources that are best in, world class, best in class for people like me, but you've also added one more step, and you've added kind of what I call the third phase in growing your company, which was JVology.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what's interesting about that is that JVology is actually not the third step. JVology actually existed before Mastermind to Millions. Now, not many people know that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I think the reason being, Tony, is why people aren't really cognizant of that is the fact that the Mastermind to Millions brand just took off with such sort of visibility and oomph that it just seemed like that one was first, although it wasn't the case. And JVology, the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit, it was very clear to me when I decided I wanted to learn this online marketing world. How are we going to reach a broader audience? How are we going to make a bigger difference? How are we going to really serve in a way that we can serve? And what struck me is that I don't know what it is that is going to, strike a chord with the online world. But I did know that I needed to build relationships, that I needed to build a network, that I needed to support people, and I needed to create community. And one of the things, and I know you know this, but I guess I'll just say it out loud for listeners, is that every single one of our brands has one golden thread that is no different from one to the other, which is we support people to create conscious communities of choice. And in creating conscious communities of choice, that can be in the personal development realm, that can be by by leading masterminds, by joining masterminds, that could be by building our own little syndicate of joint venture partners and co-creators. And so I knew I needed this. I knew I needed a network. I knew I needed a community. So I started running this event called the JVology Summit. It started in Banff, Alberta, right out just an hour from my home. And then that quickly grew into its whole other brand that, honest to goodness, I didn't have any real intention of it. It's like I wanted to just run this little community of, moving and shaking entrepreneurs. But we had so many people apply that we actually ended up developing additional training about how to get ready for joint ventures. What is a joint venture? How do you do a joint venture online? How do you do a joint venture offline if you're a bricks and mortar business? And that program has really just taken on a life of its own, and has happened in a very organic fashion. So we're blessed in both of those ways.
Very, very good. So you've got the JVology, you've got the Mastermind the Millions. What am I missing? You've got some more components to add.
Well, still the Creators Code. So the Creators Code, which is the personal development stuff, which we have been doing for over 30 years. We just finished a program in Phoenix last weekend. So those are the three brands that are all about conscious communities of choice.
I love it. So your vision comes through just by the way that you're maintaining and running your business. Plus, you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, and then you give hope to people who are just coming up through the ranks to look for that beacon that is Jay Fiset. I love it. So we've talked about you, your business, your family, some incredible things that you're doing. Let's in Texas we say, let's dance with the one who brung ya. Let me ask you this:
I like that.
Who were your mentors, Jay? Who inspired you and motivated you to do this, to become Jay?
You know what? I don't know that I had mentors in that manner. So you keep in mind, I'm old, right? I just
careful there. Be careful there.
So I just turned 51, and I started on this personal transformation journey, quite literally when I was 19 years old. So, back then, sort of the mentors and the gurus weren't, it's not like it is today. So back then, people that I read, people that I studied, I did a very intense facilitator training program that had an in-class mentorship process. But the people that I looked up to most, that I read the most, that I referred to the most, and in fact, I still have a workshop designed on some of the principles. Stephen Covey was one of my greatest. I thought that he just did a stunning job of that. Way back when, Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins, I was quite moved by his energy and all of those pieces. In fact, we ended up doing some infomercials following in his steps up in Canada. So, those were some of my faves. Now, the truth is, over the years, I have written and read more books than you can shake a stick at. Jack Canfield endorsed my book, Reframe Your Blame. So did Brian Tracy. So those were all people that I drew upon. John Bradshaw, way back when. I interviewed him for a television series I did years ago. So those were, some of the what we might call the old folks of the movement. I remember reading Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, when I was 14, for crying out loud. Wayne Dyer when I was 16. So I was sort of in that realm at an odd and early age.
Excellent. Let me ask you this. Sometimes when I ask that question, people will refer back to a high school teacher, a coach, a janitor in an elementary school, a nun. Who were your favorite teachers? Who really sticks out?
That's actually a good question. There was from Medicine Hat High, there was a really sharp, good guy. His name was Mr. Edwards, and I just really liked him. He respected me and students as peers, equals, and not silly kids. And he and I had a variety of headbutting sessions, because as you might imagine, I was a bit of a rebellious kid. We had a variety of headbutting sessions, but you know what? He was always fair. He always led by example, and we stayed in contact for years after high school. Actually, he was an exceptionally good teacher.
Nice. Very, very nice. How about your parents? Any of them?
They're batshit crazy.
Yeah, where you got it
I
from?
was waiting to see. I was waiting to see what your response would be. I had to get it from somewhere, right?
I
No,
love it.
I was I was really blessed with parents that were both amazing, and of course had their fair share of foibles as well. Um, but yeah, my parents, I was really blessed to have a very independent youth. I grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan until I was about 12, 13. And for the most part, my best friend Fritz and I thought we ran the town, and the reason being is that if we wanted the key to city, it wasn't a city. There's like 65 people there on a good day. If we wanted the key to the town hall, we could just go get the key to the town hall so we could play badminton. If we wanted the key to the school, we'd just go get the key to the school so that we could play floor hockey. We kind of thought we ran the town, so it was a cool way to grow up. And then my mom and I moved to Saskatoon, and I really just had an incredible amount of both independence and support for whatever it is that I wanted. They would always get behind me, and one of the things I try to model from them is that if I wanted something, as long as I worked for it, and sometimes I'd work for 2 or 3 years. Like I remember my first motorcycle. As long as I worked for it, if I got 2/3 the way there or 3/4 the way there, they would always make it whole. So they'd come in and say, okay, let's get this thing done. You've demonstrated it, and I do my best to apply that to my kids as well, which is we'll help you get anything so long as you're committed enough to work for it. And I think that was one of the key lessons for me that has created my work ethic, my desire to create, my desire to contribute. It was always, and I've just always had faith that the universe will respond to my efforts, and it always has. It always has. Almost never how I think it's going to, but it always does.
I totally know what you mean on that one. So that's really cool, Jay. Now you've got a fabulous wife, and she's just a darling. I mean, I don't know why Snow White comes to mind every time I think of Corey.
I did okay with Corey, but I've never thought of her as Snow White. That's funny.
You need to watch Once Upon a Time. She's the strong one, by the way. Hey, so tell me about your kids. You've got 2 boys.
We have 2 boys.
And
Wyatt, yes, and Hurricane Lou. So our oldest boy, Wyatt, is 12 going on 22. I was about to say our middle son, because we have a dog now, but it's not our middle son. Our youngest son, Jackson, is 7, turning 8. And then, of course, we recently got a dog who's about 10 months old, and his name is Lou, and he has earned the nickname Hurricane Lou. And what's interesting about our family, and I know you know this, but both of our boys are adopted. And both of them are adopted through open adoption, which means that we are in contact with their birth families. They come for birthdays, they come for Christmas, summer barbecues, those sorts of things, which is really, really cool. And I really enjoy and appreciate that. And, it is a amazing experience to have the privilege of raising these amazing boys of ours. And it is, I spent most of my life in this process of serving and supporting people to discover their beliefs, to see how they're going to respond to things, all the rest of it. So this question of nature versus nurture has always been big on my brain. And I'll tell you, one of the most amazing things about raising our adoptive kids is the recognition of how deeply encoded our DNA is and how those traits carry through. And I could tell you that we don't have time for a bunch of those examples right now, but I tell you that it is amazing how strong our genetic traits are and how that gets carried forward outside of the nurture environment. It's totally astounding. Anyway, I truly love it, and we're pretty blessed to have the family and the support and the community, including their birth families, the community around the kids that we have.
I totally agree, Jay. And you know what? You're just your family is just amazing. Let me ask you this: you have a absolute love for a car or a type of car. That's when you were a kid, right?
Well, I have always been fascinated by things mechanical. There's no question about it. And my best friend Fritz and I actually bought our first car the summer that we were 12 turning 13. It didn't have an engine in it, and we restored that car, put an engine in it, painted it, and sold it, and made $600. And when we were that age, we just thought we won the lottery. So I have always had a penchant for taking an old battered whatever it is and restoring it and bringing it back to life. So I do have a penchant for odd European cars, and that's nothing more than pushback of I grew up in a rural Saskatchewan where everybody drove a truck, and I didn't want a truck. I wanted to be different and cool, right? So where it has landed, and I have restored a ton of them over the years, is I have a little penchant for vintage Porsches, and I've been restoring them literally nonstop since I was 19 or 20, something like that. And then I recently sold all of my old ones. And for my 50th birthday, I went to the factory and bought a new one and drove the Autobahn and had a ton of fun with that. And it's funny because I used to make fun of those old people that just wanted like a new comfortable car. It's like, that's not a real sports car. That's not. And it's like, oh man, I turned into one of those guys.
It's like, yeah, but you're not overcompensating for anything. I mean, come on.
Well, it's funny because it just got to the spot where it's like, you know what? What I really want is a heated seat and GPS built in and a car that doesn't rattle. That's what I. And it's like when those become the standards, I don't know if you can qualify any longer as a true sports car fanatic.
I love it. Jay, let me ask you one last question, and this is, as your legacy, now that we know that you're a world-class mentor, that you've done all these wonderful things, that you've got this wonderful family, you kind of have it all together, what do you want to leave or pay forward?
It's a great question. And the Mastermind to Millions brand really is, I think, the foundation of what my legacy is going to be. And, I know you've been in the room when I've spoken about things like this. And we are heading into a change for existence on planet Earth that we have never faced before. And in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, depending upon who you read, I think it's more like 12 to 16 personally, there's going to be changes on planet Earth that we will not know how to cope with. The advent of AI, I mean, as it is, just to contextually frame what I'm about to say, one of the largest segments of employment in America is transportation, truck driving, car driving, delivery driving, all of these things. That is one of the largest employment sectors in the US. And in a handful of years, all of those jobs are going to be gone, and they're going to be replaced by autonomous vehicles. And AI and the technological advances that are coming are going to shake up our world and our economy and our way of being in ways we cannot comprehend. Now, I don't know what the solution is to that, and it's going to be an interesting thing of how it all plays out. But here's the part I do know, is that in times of trial, tribulation, and change, one thing that we as human beings have done exceptionally well since the beginning of time is that we've come together and we've supported one another in navigating our way through whatever the trial or the tribulation is. And part of my mission with Mastermind to Millions is I want millions of people in mastermind groups who can help one another navigate our way through. We can come together with community, with support to stand for the best in one another as these changes come to fruition. And I fervently believe that this is not one of those things that it's like, oh my goodness, there's trouble. We need to go find a mastermind group. We need people now to be wise enough, to be sharp enough to actually say, I need to build that community today so that I can navigate what's coming tomorrow. It's exactly what I did with JVology. I built the community for support for the online process, and then Mastermind to Millions came out of that. We need to be proactive in that manner. And what I would love to see on my deathbed, if I were to look back, and let's hope that that is a great number of years in the future, is that I helped prepare coaches, authors, experts, entrepreneurs, consultants to create communities that really served humanity when this great time of change comes upon us.
I absolutely love you, Jay. By the way, if you want to get a hold of Jay, it's jayfiset.com, and that'll get you to all of his programs. And if you're interested in speaking with him, please let us know, and we'll make sure that happens. And we are looking for guests just like Jay. And although I don't think I'm ever going to find a guest like Jay, to share their story, honor their mentors, and pay it forward by honoring your mentor and sharing what you are leaving as your legacy. Go to theworldclassmentors.com and apply today. We want you. Jay, again, with all my love, honor, respect, thank you so much for your time. Have a great one.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Tony. Talk soon.